In our fourth and last episode of the Canon EOS VR System Masterclass, we're going to go over how to edit and share your 180-degree 3D VR videos. We'll cover how to use the EOS VR Utility software, 180-degree 3D editing with Adobe Premiere, and 180 3D editing for DaVinCi Resolve Studio. Canon has exciting new updates to share for users publishing their videos on Apple Vision Pro, so we'll cover that as well.
Timestamps are here, so you can jump to the section you want. Let's dive in. Before we begin, we should make sure that we have the Canon EOS VR Utility software installed, as well as the HEVC activator that matches your camera body. The Canon EOS VR Utility software is free to process the first 2 minutes of footage. However, for full functionality, you'll want to subscribe to a paid plan. You can find plan details and downloads at the links on the screen below. I'm working today on a Mac Studio, but the process here is very similar on Windows. I'm going to File, Select Folder, and we'll select the folder from my EOS R5 Mark II camera containing raw CRM clips. The clips get loaded into this panel on the left, and clicking on one will begin to process it for preview in this main central area. It's automatically switching the sides and showing me an equirectangular preview. Equirectangular is the image projection we'll use in editing, and is the most compatible immersive video projection since Apple, Meta, and YouTube all support playing back videos that way. Now that I have my video open, I have a lot of features I can use to improve my capture if I need to, including image stabilization and horizon correction. There's no substitute for capturing the best way possible, but being able to adjust these right in the EOS VR Utility software is a nice feature. Our clips were captured in Canon RAW on the EOS R5 Mark II camera, so we have access to this RAW development tab where we can adjust color space settings, ISO, sharpness, and even noise reduction after we've shot. Very useful if you've had the wrong color balance or parts of your image appear too dark or too bright. Let's export these clips straight onto my headset. I'll first adjust my in and out points to cut out anything I don't need to see. Then we'll select Export. For MetaQuest or Android XR platforms, we want to select H.264 420 8-bit MP4 VR 180, Apply LUT. This will convert our Canon Log 2 footage into BT709. This is a fast and easy way to quickly prepare files for viewing. For Apple Vision Pro, Canon EOS VR Utility software supports the new Apple Projected Media profile. You must be using a macOS computer. Under File Format, select MV HEVC MOV APMP BT709. Now, the rendered clips can be sent to a Vision Pro for playback using AirDrop.
I usually want to edit my videos, and I can use the Canon EOS VR Utility software to prepare my files for the edit. Here are the export settings you want to use.
For macOS users, selecting a flavor of ProRes is your best option. If you captured in a log format, go with Apple ProRes 4444 for the best quality. Otherwise, Apple ProRes 422 LT still offers great quality and can help save disk space, making the footage easier to work with. If you're on a Windows PC, selecting HEVC 444 10-bit will be the best way to go. Don't worry, it's still very high quality. There is an option here to render out a 3D 360 version, and this is useful if you plan to edit with Final Cut Pro, as that application does not support the 180 3D workflow. The last thing I want to bring up is that if you are capturing with a camera that only supports 4K, the EOS VR Utility software has an option to use Canon's neural network upscaling to bring the video size to 8K and convert the video to a resolution higher than it was captured at. This will greatly enhance the quality of your immersive footage, and I highly recommend you use it.
Adobe Premiere is great for 180-degree video VR workflows. Adobe Premiere has a lot of built-in plugins that make it easy to get started. Even though there's an EOS VR plugin for Adobe Premiere, I recommend using the EOS VR Utility software because it supports RAW decoding, image stabilization, and direct support for exporting Apple Projected Media profile.
We're going to import the 180 3D ProRes files we created earlier using the utility. Now we're going to create a new sequence. Let's set up our time base to match our frame rate. And our frame size to be 8192 by 4096, which is the resolution of our exported clips. Notice that it is a 2:1 aspect ratio, not 16:9. I'm going to disable color management because I don't want Premiere to automatically interpret the color space of my footage. Critically, we also need to set up our VR video settings. The projection is equirectangular. The layout is stereoscopic side by side. Our horizontal captured view is 180 degrees. Let's save this as a preset for future use. Now, I'll drag my clip over onto my timeline. Let's adjust my button editor so that I get my VR preview controls. By putting this button in the bar, I can easily see the projected view, which makes it a lot easier to make editorial choices. The VR effects included with Adobe Premiere make it easy to add titles and other effects with minimal setup. You'll find all the compatible built-in effects and transitions here, under Immersive Video. I'd caution against using the regular effects as they aren't aware of the unique VR projection. Let's do an example using the plane to sphere, one of my most used effects. I use this to add titles. Create your title in the very center of the canvas, and then apply our plane to sphere effect. Because we set up our sequence settings to match our video, the title will automatically go to the correct spot.
Because we are working in stereoscopic 3D, we need to think about depth. The easiest way to do that is to bring out your 3D anaglyph glasses and change the viewing mode to anaglyph. Let me show you how to do that.
We'll click the VR projection icon in the player bar controls to change the program monitor to projected view. Now, click the wrench icon to open the program monitor settings. Navigate to VR Video, Settings. In the dialog that comes up, change your stereoscopic view to anaglyph. We now see the familiar red and cyan 3D, and when we put on our 3D glasses, we can see the depth. Use the stereo disparity controls in the VR plane to sphere effect to control where the title is in 3D space.
I like to do a quick check of all my titles this way before I export. I also like to use the projected view of the program monitor to make sure that my cuts feel good.
When it's time to export, Adobe Premiere can write specific metadata to your files that are important for YouTube and Apple Vision Pro. When exporting for direct viewing on Meta Quest or the Samsung Galaxy XR, we need to make sure we're targeting HEVC. Change the profile from main to high, and set our bitrate at 80 megabits per second. We also want to say that this video is VR by checking this box, and we'll adjust the frame layout to be stereoscopic side by side. Finally, we need to set our horizontal field of view to be 180.
Now I can copy over these files to the headset and give it a watch down to ensure everything is exactly as I want. When I'm happy, it's time to share it with the world.
We'll head back to our export settings, but instead of exporting an HEVC file, we'll choose QuickTime and select Apple ProRes 422HQ. This can help ensure the best quality for YouTube. Processing will take longer, but for your final video, it's worth the time.
Currently, as of the publishing of this video, unlike DaVinci Resolve Studio, Adobe Premiere does not currently support MV HEVC encoding. So, if you are planning on exporting your video to review on Apple Vision Pro, we'll need to first convert our timeline from 180 3D to 360 3D. Let me show you how to do that.
First, create a new sequence and change the resolution to be 8192 by 8192. Then, drag your finished, exported 180 3D edit into this new timeline. When Premiere asks if you want to change the sequence settings, say Keep Existing Settings. Find the VR projection effect and drag it onto your clip. In the Effect controls, uncheck Output Auto VR Properties and change the output layout to stereoscopic over-under. Change the output horizontal field of view to 360. In the Export tab, we'll choose HEVC and change our profile from main to high, so we can unlock higher bit rates. We'll set our bit rate to 80 megabits per second. Scrolling down, we'll also make sure our VR metadata is set to stereoscopic over/under with a 360-degree field of view. After this file encodes, it is ready to be transferred to the Apple Vision Pro. When you airdrop it onto your Apple Vision Pro headset, it will be automatically converted to use the Apple projected media profile and play back correctly on the device.
DaVinci Resolve Studio also has excellent support for 180 3D video. Let's take a look at how to set up a project for 180 3D using DaVinci Resolve Studio.
We'll create a new project and head to Project Settings. Under Master Setting, we need to set our timeline resolution to be 4096 by 4096, which is a 1:1 aspect ratio, and our timeline frame rate to match our footage, which in our case is 5994. I'll head to Image Scaling, and here under Input Scaling, I'll change this to Center Crop with no resizing for mismatched resolution files. We'll do the same in the Output Scaling. We'll set our output resolution to 4096 by 4096, and select Center Crop with no resizing for mismatched resolution files. Under Color Management, we can take advantage of DaVinci Resolve's powerful color tools to target our delivery headset. I want complete control over my color science, so I'll select DaVinci YRGB as my color science. I'll put my timeline color space as Canon Cinema Gamut, Canon Log 2, and my output color space to P3D65, Gamma 2.2. because I'm targeting the Meta Quest for my project. I'll also set up my 3D lookup table interpolation to be tetrahedral. Finally, I want to make sure that under Project Settings, General Options, that Apply Stereoscopic Convergence to Windows and Effects is checked, so that any power windows and effects that I apply get applied to both eyes correctly. Now I'm going to import my clip by dragging it from the file browser into my media pool. In the media pool, I will right-click on the clip and select Clip Attributes. Here, I'll change the stereoscopic mode to side-by-side and the projection format to equirectangular 180. I'll head over to my color page next. Here, I can add a color space transform node to convert my Canon Cinema Gamut Canon Log 2 file to the display color space of my target headset. In my case, I'm using a P3D65 and Gamma 2.2, which matches my output color space that we set up earlier. I can also check my stereo alignment because Resolve has an incredible 3D toolset. I will change my out to anaglyph. Here, we can adjust our convergence so that the farthest point away is at 0 parallax, much like how we see in real life. This will help improve the 3D effect in our videos.
DaVinci Resolve Studio includes Fusion, built right in, which allows you to do all sorts of complex visual effects without leaving the application.
Fusion is a very powerful tool that's too complex to cover in this series, but plenty of free tutorials are available online through Blackmagic Design's website.
Now let's go over how to export your video from DaVinci Resolve Studio.
On the delivery page, we'll select MP4 and H.265. In the stereoscopic 3D section, if we are exporting from Meta Quest or Samsung Galaxy XR headsets, we'll export both eyes as side-by-side. Finally, we'll also restrict our bitrate to 80,000 kilobits per second so we're able to play back on our target headset. For Apple Vision Pro, one very important caveat is that the first video clip must be a stereoscopic clip tagged as equirectangular 180. So if you have a slate or graphic as your first clip, you may want to adjust. Once that is set, we'll head over to the Delivery tab and we will select QuickTime H.265 and in the stereoscopic 3D section, choose MV-HEVC. Again, we'll restrict the bitrate to 80,000 kilobits per second. The Apple Vision Pro is powerful, so you may be able to push this bitrate higher to handle more complex scenes, but I recommend starting at 80,000 kilobits per second. From there, you can airdrop it to your Apple Vision Pro headset.
I hope this information has been helpful in answering some of your most asked questions about post-production workflows in 180 3D VR. The bit rate limit values for export quality that I recommended can be adjusted and should be, depending on what is in your video scene and the playback capabilities of the device and how you are delivering to your audience. My recommendation here is to test with short 30-second clips until you are happy with the quality. Remember, scenes with a lot of detail, like outside in a forest or at a concert filled with confetti, are going to be more challenging for the encoder to handle, so you'll need a higher bitrate. Before you do your final export, there are 2 secrets I want to share with you that will take the quality of your finished film to the next level. They are time-intensive, but worth it. First, a critical step I found having my immersive films look really good is to do some aggressive denoising of the footage. Even the cleanest footage has some sensor noise, and noise causes all sorts of problems for this format, including interfering with the stereoscopic 3D and hurting compression efficiency by adding unnecessary texture to the image. If you think about it, in real life, we don't see sensor noise, and we are trying to put audiences into our real world.
DaVinci Resolve Studio has a very good AI denoiser, and I like to think plugins like Neat Video deliver outstanding results. It takes some time and computer processing power, so it is best to do this step on only the footage you know you'll be using. But spend the time. It's worth it.
Second, after you perform your denoise, a little sharpening in post-production, as opposed to on the camera, can go a long way towards making your image appear clearer, especially for objects in the distance. However, be careful not to overdo it. Sharper images don't always create a better viewing experience and can cause distracting artifacts to appear in your footage. Despite having been creating immersive films for a decade, this format is still really new to a lot of folks. My key advice here is to make sure that you're communicating with your audience that what they are about to see is a 180-degree 3D film. So putting language on your poster or thumbnails like immersive experience or 180 3D will help set expectations and deliver success. The good news is that once you have folks watching your work, the memories and connections they form are very powerful. I am a huge believer in this medium as a way to tell compelling, authentic stories, whether it's on stage at a concert or a spooky ghost story. I want to thank you for the time you gave to watch this series. I hope the information was helpful and gives you the knowledge to go and create your own immersive films using the Canon EOS VR system. I can't wait to see what you make.